Hello, my friends. I'm going to read to you some more out of Sideways Stories from Wayside School. And if you hear that sound in the background, that's my fan. And because you know me, you know that that's not surprising because of it's always on. All right. We are on chapter 15 already, and this chapter is called Dee Dee. And there is what the Dee Dee looks like. This story contains a problem and a solution. Dee Dee was a mousy-looking kid. Unlike most children at Wayside School, she liked recess better than spelling. As soon as the recess bell rang, she would jump up from her seat and run out the door. There were big signs at Wayside School on every floor. No jumping down the stairs. Dee Dee never seemed to notice the signs. She jumped down the stairs. Some children took the stairs 2 at a time. Dee Dee took them 10 at a time. That was on the way down, and it was funny. She never seemed to be in quite the same hurry on the way back up. There was another sign at Wayside School. No cutting across the grass. Dee Dee must not ever have seen that one either. She cut across the grass and ran up to Louis, the yard teacher. "I want a green ball," Dee Dee said. The green balls were the best. "I'm all out of green balls," said Louis. "Okay, then I want a red ball," said Dee Dee. The red balls were just about as good as the green balls. They didn't bounce as high, but actually, sometimes you don't want a ball to bounce too high. "I'm all out of red balls too," said Louis. "Do you have anything left?" asked Dee Dee. Dee Dee meant anything besides the yellow ball. There was one yellow ball at Wayside School, and Louis was always trying to get rid of it. It didn't bounce, and it never went the way it was kicked. "Anything at all?" asked Dee Dee. "Today is your lucky day," said Louis. "I have one ball left, just for you, the one and only yellow ball." "No, thanks," said Dee Dee. "Aw, come on, take it," said Louis. "Why don't you ever have any green or red balls?" asked Dee Dee. "I do," said Louis, "but the other children ask first, and by the time you get out here, they're all gone." "But that's because I have to come all the way from the 30th story. How do you expect me to compete with the kids from first or second?" "That's why I saved you the yellow ball," said Louis. "Everybody asked for it, but I saved it just for you." "I bet," said Dee Dee. She took the yellow ball and bounced it on the ground. It stopped dead with a thud. She stepped back, ran up, and kicked it. It went backwards over her head. She didn't bother to chase it. Instead, she played hopscotch with Jenny and Leslie. She thought it was disgusting. The next day, Dee Dee asked Mrs. Jules if she could go to recess early. "Why?" asked Mrs. Jules. "So I can get a green ball before Louis gives them all away," said Dee Dee. "I'm glad you have a good reason," said Mrs. Jules. "Yes, you may go, but first, spell Mississippi for me." Spelling was not Dee Dee's best subject, and by the time she finally got it right, she was 5 minutes late for recess. She jumped down the stairs, cut across the grass, and ran up to Louis. There were no green balls left. There were no yellow balls left either. However, there were no red balls left either. However, there was still a yellow ball. Dee Dee played jump rope with Joy and Maricia. It was no better than hopscotch. So Dee Dee's problem was to figure out a way to get to a green ball or at least a red ball. And you already know that this story contains a solution. Dee Dee figured it out. See if you can too. Remember everything you know about Dee Dee, Wayside School, and Mrs. Jules. Hint: the next day, Dee Dee brought a cream cheese and jelly sandwich, some nuts, and shredded cheese in her lunchbox. Here's what happened. Just before recess, Dee Dee smeared cream cheese and jelly all over her face, and then she stuffed her mouth with nuts and hung shredded cheese from her nose. And when she closed her eyes, she looked like a dead rat. Todd was in on the plan. "Mrs. Jules," he called, "there's a dead rat in the classroom." Mrs. Jules was very put out. "I want that dead rat outside immediately," When Mrs. Jewls said immediately, she meant it. Dee Dee instantly found herself outside on the playground. I want a green ball, she said. Louis pretended he hadn't heard her. May I please have a green ball? Asked Dee Dee. Louis gave her a green ball. I don't know how you did it, Dee Dee, but you're first today, he said. When Mrs. Jewls found out that Dee Dee and Todd had tricked her, she sent Todd home on the kindergarten bus. Sent Todd home early on the kindergarten bus. He always goes home on the kindergarten bus. Dee Dee threw the green ball in the air, and it bounced 50 feet straight in the air, and she caught it. You don't like me, do you? She asked Louis. I sure do, said Louis. No, you don't, said Dee Dee. Yes, I like you, said Louis. No, you don't, Dee Dee insisted. Yes, I like you, I really do, said Louis. Are you sure? Asked Dee Dee. Yes, said Louis. Don't you believe me? I guess so. Do you like me? Asked Louis. You bet, said Dee Dee. You're my best friend. Terrific, said Louis. I always wanted to be best friends with a dead rat. That's a very silly and also weird chapter of this book. But I hope you liked it, and I love you very much.